I just wanted to tell you CDPHE is doing a really good, robust dashboard. So you'll see their data coming up, and they're a great resource for all of us to use on this dashboard. So we don't have to do this work ourselves. Some of it's being done on different levels. I hate public speaking, so believe it or not, a elected official that hates public speaking, but that's me. So here we go. Good morning, I'm Wendy Buxton-Andrade, and I'm Prowers County Commissioner from rural Southeast Colorado and Chair of Region 19 Opioid Settlement Committee. Over the past 5 years plus, Colorado Counties Incorporated has been working hard to educate all of the commissioners on the dangers of substance abuse in their counties. With this awareness, many commissioners sounds good, thank you. Many commissioners have been deeply involved with the crisis going on in their counties now. I personally have served on the Attorney General's Substance Abuse Task Force for over 9 years. This past 3 years, the awareness has become a focus by many of the commissioners because the opioid settlement has taken center stage. This settlement has highlighted the epidemic that is affecting every economic sector in our counties. It is not discriminating with the rural or metro counties. We have seen the loss of life in our great state of one person out of every 36 hours. The opioid settlement means help for so many. Our county jails right now are affected because 90% of our current inmates are there because some sort of drug and the use of drug is driving their addiction behavior. The counties have taken charge of the settlement funds coming into the state, and 60% of these funds are coming to the counties. The regional boards are collaborating with providers, law enforcement, and local elected officials are working diligently on their plans to help those in need, as well as educating communities on the dangers of the opioid epidemic that it has caused. The counties see the different effects through their jails, human services, and public health departments. The counties are bringing together all the local partnerships and forming the visions they have for their own recovery of this crisis. The partnerships will be formed at a local level as well as a state level. We are all working together to bring this crisis to an end and using the settlement funds to provide the help at the most intimate level to the families and the loved ones that are suffering because of this pharmaceutical-caused crisis. In my region, the Southeastern Plains, or Region 19, has a very unique opportunity that was formed over 25 years ago. 6 counties came together to fight, and they formed an entity called Rosada. This nonprofit treatment facility has evolved from the early stages of an alcohol treatment facility into what it does today. It treats all substance use disorder now. It is an entity that shows what rural areas do best, coming together to solve their own problems at a local level. As we begin to roll out the local solutions, fitting the needs of our communities with this settlement, we will see regions coming together to solve the lack of trained professionals in the industry. We will hear about creative ways that they have all found to grow their own, as well as working to educate the children of the dangers of substance use. Region 19 is working on the networking with our local school districts to develop curriculum with teachers, to incorporate into their daily plans to help with mental health as well as substance awareness. We are also looking at scholarships to fund families needing to get help as they are struggling. And we have also taken the wrong door approach for these families. So a financial status does not mean anything to us. And we are also exploring lots of ways to grow the programs we already have in place, as well as programs that we think will enhance the current programs and entities we already have. Rural Colorado and the state of Colorado are working together to have the greatest benefit for our constituents, to reach the dream that families do not have to suffer from this horrible disease, so that we do not lose one more member of our community. Thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions on what the rural areas are doing. Who's next? Do you guys have any questions? Go ahead, Lori.
Yes, I'm Lori Lasky, Alamosa County, and I was wondering, we were one of the areas that was able to get a planning grant for our, to go ahead and work on this plan, because we really do not have the capacity to take on this work without it. Now that that is done, I should say, how in your area are you going to facilitate the management of this program moving forward? Because we know it's a long term, it's 18 years, yet sometimes our funding and our budgets don't allow for an additional FTE.
We have fought. Heidi gets my phone calls quite often because we were also one of the regions that got the planning grant. Our planning grant has run out. We have begged from Heidi to open up some of the funding. Thank goodness that Pueblo County is one of our 9 counties, and they've agreed to, before the money has come in, to continue our work. And I want to tell you, we've submitted our 2-year plan, Region 19, but it's percentages. We are now getting into the depths of what we have highlighted, like education needs to be one of the higher percentages, because we know that we do not have stuff in schools right now. We want to kick off some of the schools. We also have highlighted different areas that we think need attention as soon as possible, and then we'll go down that. We are working on our RFPs for our grant process, so we're requesting people to come in. Right now, it's not where the money is going, it's getting through the processes, and I think that a lot of people do not understand there is a ton of stuff that has to go in to form these entities to keep before the money can be handed out, and make sure that we protect the funds and they get to the right hands so we don't have abuse. And I'm one of the commissioners in the state of Colorado that constantly wants transparency. So these funds have to be transparent. We want to make sure that people know where they're going and that we have accountability. Do you have?
Hi, Commissioner, Jeffco Commissioner Leslie Dahlkemper. Always appreciate hearing from you. And I wanted to know what your best advice was to counties in regions that have a real mix of urban, rural, and mountain areas, as well as suburban, which we have in our region with Jeffco, Gilpin, and Clear Creek. What is your best advice for us in terms of ensuring we have equity, especially for our smaller, more rural counties? What is your advice moving forward as we think about those issues?
From my prior experience of sitting on some of the grant things. We really, when we were looking at some of the grants through Signal and stuff like that, through the MSOs, we really calculated where the money was going and pinpointed it. So that's why we picked the counties to look at it, because you guys should know your equity. You have to sit down to dinner and have a constituent come up to your table. Just so you know, my husband doesn't like to go out to dinner anymore because I'm never off of work. So, yeah, literally, you guys are the ones that have to decide. And just because there's a more populated area does not mean that you have more of a need than the rural areas, where sometimes it's easier to hide out in rural areas. And so you have to be aware of that. And just because maybe you think that your population is higher, you still have the capacity to make sure that those smaller areas are getting services and equitable services. I mean, throwing us pennies does not help the situation. You have to make sure that you get it up, set up right. So, did you have a question?
It may not be as helpful to everybody else, but I've heard about Rosada, and I'd love to know how you got that going and how is it sustainably funded?
I cannot take credit. It was commissioners long ago, and I can tell you, after sitting on their board, I'm in my third term. I started with them right away. It has been a struggle. You have to have the right director. We were not Medicaid certified 5 years ago. We were in the hole. I'll tell you, we were bleeding money. My health director is here. She also sits on the board, and she's been a huge advocate. We looked, about 4 years ago, into how the dynamics of the board was set up. It's commissioners that sit on their board. We give very little as a county to the board, to Rosada to keep it going. We get Medicaid certified. We actually used to get Signal dollars, which is our MSO, and it has diminished because of our Medicaid dollars. We now are billing correctly, and guys, if you're not doing that correctly, please make sure you are. So that's kinda, and I can talk with you on the side because I'm out of time, so I'll leave it to Heidi. Thank you, guys.
She says she doesn't like